He was just a single dad, sitting in a park, carrying a wound he never told anyone about, until three little strangers changed everything.
Triplet girls, 7 years old, had never met this man a day in their lives. So why did they look at his arm like they'd seen it before?
She walked right up to this complete stranger and looked at his tattoo like it was the most familiar thing she'd ever seen in her life.
Hello, sir. Our mother has a tattoo just like yours.
7 words. That's all it took. 7 words from a child.
Just when everything seems to make sense, an unexpected discovery changes everything. Stay with us. Hello, sir. Our mother has a tattoo just like yours. He froze. What would you do if 3 little strangers walked up to you in a park and said something that turned your entire world upside down in one sentence? What if those 7 words cracked open a wound you'd spent years trying to seal shut, and somehow impossibly offered you a way to heal it? If this kind of story moves you, if you believe in the quiet miracles that find people when they need them most, then do us a favor right now. Tap that like button and subscribe to this channel. We tell stories that remind us why love, even lost love, never truly disappears. Stories like this one, stories like Marcus Webb's. This is the story of a man who thought the best chapter of his life was already over, and 3 little girls who proved him wrong. Marcus Webb was 42 years old and had long since made peace, or something that looked like peace, with the fact that he would spend the rest of his life alone, not lonely. There's a difference. He had his daughter, Zoe, 12 years old and fierce as a summer storm, who kept his apartment chaotic and his heart full. He had his contracting business, modest but steady, which kept his hands busy and his mind from wandering into places it had no business wandering. He had his Friday evening runs through Callaway Park, which he'd been doing for 6 years without fail, rain or shine, because the rhythm of his feet on the path was the closest thing he had to prayer. What Marcus did not have, what he had not allowed himself to have, was hope. Not about love, anyway. That ship had sailed. It had sailed 7 years ago, on the worst morning of his life, when he woke up and found a note on the kitchen counter where Elena had been standing the night before. A note that said, "I'm sorry, I have to go, please don't look for me." That was it. No explanation, no argument preceding it, no signs, as far as he'd been able to tell. Just Elena Lara, the woman he'd loved completely and foolishly and without reservation, gone from his life like smoke in the wind. He'd looked for her, of course, in spite of the note. He was a man, after all, and grief makes you stupid. He'd called her sister, her mother, her old college friends. Everyone said the same thing. She'd called them too. She was safe. She'd asked them not to say where she was. And eventually Marcus had to accept the unacceptable, that Elena had chosen to leave him, and chosen not to tell him why. He'd never truly understood it, and the not understanding had calcified inside him year after year into something hard and permanent. He carried it the way you carry a stone in your shoe you've stopped noticing, until something presses on it just right, and the pain shoots fresh and sharp as the first day. The tattoo on his forearm was the last piece of Elena he had. A compass rose she'd designed herself, hand-drawn on a napkin at a coffee shop during their 3rd date, laughing and insisting he get it. He'd gotten it. 2 years later, she was gone. He'd thought about having it removed, exactly once, in the first brutal year. But he hadn't been able to do it. It felt wrong, like erasing proof that she had existed, that they had existed, so he kept it, under long sleeves in cold months, visible in summer when it didn't matter, and mostly unremarked upon. Until a Friday evening in June, on a bench at Callaway Park, when everything changed, he'd stopped on the bench to stretch his calves and check his watch, debating whether to do a second loop. The park was alive with early evening energy. Kids on the jungle gym, couples walking dogs, a group of teenagers playing frisbee with elaborate unnecessary drama. Marcus was watching none of it. He was doing the thing he usually tried not to do, looking at the tattoo, thinking about her, the way her voice had sounded when she'd sketched it. A compass rose, Marcus, so you always find your way back to where you belong. He'd never found his way back. He wasn't sure he had anywhere to find his way back to. "Hello, sir." The voice was small and startlingly clear. He looked up, and his first impression was simply that he was seeing things, because there were 3 of them, 3 small girls, utterly identical, standing a few feet away from him in matching yellow dresses, looking at him with a level, unabashed confidence that belongs exclusively to children under 10. "Hi," Marcus said, automatically polite, glancing around for a parent. "Our mother has a tattoo just like yours," said the center girl, The words didn't land at first. They passed through him like they were in another language, requiring translation. Then they landed. Marcus went completely still. His gaze dropped to his forearm, back up to the girl's face. She was looking at him with those green eyes, and something about those eyes rang a distant, resonant bell in some deep pre-verbal part of his mind. "What did you say?" His voice came out quiet, measured. The way voices get when bodies are trying to hide what's happening inside them. "Our mother," the girl repeated, patient as a small professor, "has a tattoo just like that one, a compass rose, on her left arm too, with letters inside it." The world tilted, just slightly, the way the ground shifts in the first half second of an earthquake before your brain has processed what's happening. "What's your name?" Marcus asked. His hands, he noticed distantly, were shaking. "Lily," the girl said. She gestured to her right. "That's Rose." She gestured to her left. "That's Daisy, we're triplets. Most people think that's unusual. What's your mother's name?" Marcus asked. The question came out barely above a whisper. Lily tilted her head, assessing whether this stranger deserved the information. Then she said, "Elena." The next few minutes were the longest of Marcus Webb's adult life. He asked the girls to stay where they were. "Right there, don't move." And he stood up and scanned the park with the controlled panic of a man trying very hard to not be panicking. There were so many people. He was looking for a face he hadn't seen in 7 years. A face he had tried, with enormous discipline and mixed results, to stop looking for in crowds. He almost missed her. She was at the edge of the park near the parking lot, speaking to a woman with a stroller, her back half turned. She was wearing a green linen jacket and her dark hair was longer than he remembered, pulled over one shoulder. But the way she stood, the slight cant of her hip, the angle of her head, that he would have known in a dark room. "Elena," he said, too quiet. She didn't hear Elena, he said again louder. His voice broke on the second syllable. She turned, and for one fractured second, the look on her face was pure, unguarded terror. Not the terror of danger, the terror of the thing you've both feared and dreamed of arriving at last. Then it went still. Her face went still. And she walked toward him. The conversation that followed was not a movie reconciliation. It was not full of beautiful speeches or a score swelling in the background. It was two people sitting on a park bench while 3 small girls played nearby, speaking in the halting, careful language of people navigating a minefield they'd both laid. Elena told him what she hadn't been able to tell him 7 years ago. She told him that she'd been pregnant when she left, that she hadn't known until 2 weeks through that awful morning she'd written the note. That by then, she was already gone, staying with a cousin in a city 3 states away, trying to figure out what her life was. And then the ultrasound had revealed not 1 heartbeat, not 2, but 3. And she had been 26 years old and terrified and completely, utterly alone. And she had made a decision she had spent every day since questioning. She had not told Marcus. She had raised the girls alone, with help from her cousin and eventually from her sister, who had moved nearby. She had built a quiet life, a careful life. She worked as a freelance graphic designer, working from home, so she could be there when the girls needed her. She had never married. She had never, and this she said to the ground rather than to his face, stopped thinking about him. The compass rose tattoo. She'd gotten it 6 months after she left. The same design she'd sketched for him. Because she'd needed something to carry, something to feel like a thread still connecting her to the person she'd walked away from. Marcus listened to all of this without interrupting, which was the hardest thing he had ever done. When she finished, there was a long silence between them. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why did you leave?" Elena closed her eyes. "I was afraid," she said. "I was afraid of how much I needed you. I was afraid that if I stayed, I would disappear into you, into us. And I was too young and too frightened to know that the answer wasn't to run." She opened her eyes. They were bright with tears she wasn't allowing to fall. "I know that's not enough." "It's not," Marcus said, "but it's honest." He didn't forgive her that afternoon. He wasn't able to. Not in the space of a park bench conversation. Not with 7 years of silence and unanswered questions and grief hanging between them. But he also didn't walk away. He stayed. He asked to meet the girls properly. Lily came immediately, forthright and curious. Rose followed cautiously. Daisy hid behind her mother for a full 10 minutes before emerging with great reluctance to inspect him. Over the following weeks, Marcus learned his daughter's names in the way you learn geography, gradually through repeated exploration. Lily, who had approached him in the park, was the leader, the talker, the one who asked every question twice to make sure she understood the answer. Rose was gentler, more watchful, with a gift for drawing that left Marcus slightly breathless when he first saw her sketchbooks. Daisy was the wild one, the climber, the runner, with a laugh that launched itself out of her like a living thing. They were, all three of them, the most astonishing humans Marcus had ever met, and they were his. He and Elena navigated the complicated cartography of their new reality with more care than either of them had navigated anything before. There were hard conversations. There were things said that had to be unsaid and reworked. There were nights Marcus drove home from Elena's apartment with the windows down, needing the cold air to sort out the riot inside him. But there were also evenings when the girls sat with him and his daughter Zoe, who took approximately 4 days to become aggressively devoted to her new little sisters, and those evenings felt like something Marcus had lost the vocabulary for. Something like wholeness. It was Lily who pushed, naturally. One afternoon, about 2 months after the park bench, she climbed into Marcus's lap. She did this without preamble, like it was simply a reasonable thing to do, and looked up at him with those old soul green eyes. "Are you going to marry our mom?" she asked. Marcus laughed, a real, surprised, full-body laugh he hadn't heard himself make in years. "I don't know, Lily," he said honestly. "You should think about it," she said, with the gravity of someone presenting a boardroom proposal. "We've discussed it, all three of us. We think it would be a good idea." Marcus looked across the living room to where Elena was pretending, unconvincingly, to be absorbed in a magazine. "You've discussed it," he repeated. "We made a pros and cons list," Lily confirmed. The pros were longer. The compass rose on his forearm had always pointed somewhere he couldn't name. A place he'd believed he would never reach. He'd worn it for 7 years as a reminder of what he'd lost, a wound he'd made permanent in ink. It took 3 little girls with curly auburn hair and green eyes to show him that it had been pointing home all along. On the last Friday of October, Marcus went to Callaway Park again. This time he was not alone. Elena walked beside him, her shoulder close to his. 3 girls ran ahead on the path, chasing each other through drifts of fallen leaves, their laughter carrying back through the cool air. He reached over and took Elena's hand. She looked at him. "I forgive you," he said quietly. "I think I've been forgiving you for a while. I just needed to say it out loud." Elena squeezed his hand. Didn't speak. She didn't need to. Ahead of them, Lily stopped running and turned back, hands on hips, impatient. "Come on," she called. "We're losing them!" Gesturing wildly at the leaves as if the leaves were in competition with them and winning. Marcus started to laugh. Elena started to laugh. And the compass rose on his forearm, caught the autumn light as he walked forward, toward whatever waited for him on the path ahead. He was finding his way back to where he belonged. Finally, thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please give it a like. It helps us tell more stories like this one. And if you're new here, subscribe. Every week we bring you stories about the moments that change everything. You won't want to miss what's coming next.